Okay, Mr. Woolbright, what did you do after the war?
Well, that's after the war. I went back into my trade. Of course, by that time I was married. And then I set up my own business in 1949. And we were primarily residential builders and small apartment complexes of maybe 10, 15 units, 16 units, something like that. None of them over 2-story. And I built quite a few churches for the Catholic diocese.
Okay, Deb, did you have some more specifics about his life after the war that you wanted to address?
Do you have about his children?
Oh yes, tell us about your family and your children.
Oh well, by that time, you know, there was quite a bit of social life that could go on at that time, you know, because then this whole area was beginning to boom, and people were coming in, and it was nothing to attend 1 or 2, 3 cocktail parties a month, or somebody had a little amateur theater was formed in Delray Beach. Because that, in 1947, that's when I moved to Delray Beach, because that's where all my work was. And you know, they had social life that we made friends, visited with one another. And that was primarily it. And the kids had always something to do with their school. Both of those were in Catholic school. The oldest one was at St. Anne's over here, and the youngest one was Cardinal Newman, as high school.
That's a long commute for them, Frank.
Yep. Tell us about what are some of the things that your children became involved with over the years?
Well, that's anything that was going on in the schools, they were involved in. Neither one of them ever went into scouting. Of course, I have to say that was my wife's doing, because she was not the type of person that could, you know, work with committees and all, and then she was kind of well reserved in that, and she didn't want him in scouting because she said that she just couldn't do her part, you know, that the old parents had to do with scouting. Of course, before the war, I served as a scoutmaster in Boynton there, and I had some rough and ready kids in that thing. And after the war, I used to tell them I joined the Navy to get away from you kids. But I was in scouting there, and then, of course, I was in scouting as a young boy, and I got up to first class. I never did get any higher than that.
Do we want to talk about that at all, Deb, the scouting back then?
Could, but I was wondering the kids' names. And when
Yes, well, tell us your children's names.
Well, the oldest one is Ralph Thomas, and the youngest one is Robert Joseph. They only had the 2 boys.
Did they work in the business?
Did they work in your business?
Robert did. I worked my son Ralph sometimes on weekends and sometime during the summer. And it did take him long to inform me that he didn't want any part of construction. He didn't like it.
What did he end up doing?
What did he wind up doing?
He is now, he's a general manager for a private golf course and clubhouse in Reno, Nevada. And that he was in that type of work. He was in the hotel and that type of business. He started out when he was in Palm Beach Junior College up there. He worked for Arvida down there in Boca Raton for 14 years and managed one of their golf courses for them. And then he got offers out in other places. He's probably managed, I would say, at least 20 golf courses over the southeast part of the United States.
Goodness gracious. How about the name of the business?
Yes. What is the name of your business?
That was Tommy Woolbright Incorporated.
Tell us about how the road in that area became known as Woolbright Road.
Well, that's pretty easy because we were the only one who lived on it.
Did they come to you and say, we want to officially designate this
No.
Woolbright Road?
My dad asked Johnny Prince, he was the county commissioner at the time, to build a road out there for us because they was just a rock base up to the cemetery, and then from there on was a dirt road, which is about a half a mile. And Johnny told him, he says, well, Tom, he says, get me the signature of 25 property owners along the side of that side of the road. Dad says, hell's bells, Johnny. He says, there's only 3 property owners for the entire mile, and we're the only one that lives there. There's none of them live there. In fact, there's no houses on it. Oh, he says, get me 25 signatures. I don't care where you get them from. So if they ever dig back into the archives of that road building out there, they'll probably find that of course, it wasn't designated as that, but then that there's 25 names of people on that road that lived at anywhere from Boca Raton to Lake Worth. And so the county built that road out there, and when he did, boy, Johnny Prince says, well, say Woolbright Road would be a good name for this. And then when 95 came through, of course, they wanted 2. Boynton was allowed 2 exits. Same as Delray was 2 exits. Lake Worth was 2 exits. And all on there, and they picked Woolbright Road. And then that began to put it on the map.
Did they move their family home, or did they tear it down?
Is the family home still on the property?
No, that was torn down to take the interchange, because that was right there where the interchange is.
Is there any Woolbright property still in the Woolbright family from the old days? It's all gone?
No.
What do you think your parents would think of Palm Beach County if they could see it today?
I would hate to tell you what my father would think. Mother, I don't think, would have been surprised at all. But Dad, up until the time he died in 1953, that area was beginning to boom then. And I often heard him say to my mother, "Sis, it's getting a little crowded here." But that was about it.
What was his parents' names, and when did his mom die?
What were your parents' given names, and when did your parents pass away? What were your parents' full names? And
Well, of course, my father was Thomas Edward Woolbright Sr. And my mother was Lavesta Ione Meredith. And then she married my dad.
okay, when did she pass away?
Mother passed away in 1960.
60. Okay. What is your impression of what Palm Beach County has become?
Well, I would have to say it's phenomenal of the growth. And I would also say that we were fortunate in that when this began to expand, each one of these little towns and cities, as they were chartered, they organized a planning and zoning department to regulate that growth and how it was to go. Now, the best example of that, Fort Lauderdale down there, never had any, although they were chartered, but they just let things go pell-mell, what they wanted to do. And now that's a traffic mess down there now.
Is there anything about the earlier days in Palm Beach County of when you were growing up that you would really like to have people remember about growing up in Palm Beach County?
Well, I think we've explored just about all of that I can remember. Of course, one thing that I always remember was mosquitoes, sandflies, and land crabs. Now, land crabs, I don't know, they made a migration once a year, and they would actually fill up the Dixie Highway, which is then when I first remembered, there was only one-lane road. And when two teams of mules or two automobiles met, each one of them had to get two wheels off the road so they could pass. And a car was very, very seldom was there a car come along. I know when my mother taught school up until the time that I started to school, my grandmother took care of me. And mother, then Dad would pick me up whenever school was out. And Mother come home. And I'd be down on the farm there with my uncle. And you could hear an automobile coming. God, I would take out and run as fast as I could to get up to the road just to see that thing go by, because it was kind of a rarity. And I always remember that my dad, the only bicycle we had was my dad's, and my mother, she had a bicycle. But my two older brothers, to learn to ride my dad's bicycle, they took what they called a tomato field crate and set it up on the road, because neither one of them were large enough or big enough to get on the bicycle and have one foot on the ground. And they would start off on that and ride till they fell over, and then they'd walk back. Well, as I remember, that box sat there 3 days one time before we had to move it to let a car go by. Cars were a rare item.
What do you think, Deb?
I think that's about it. When did your grandma pass away? When did your grandma pass away?
Oh, Grandma died, I think it's in 1923. But she came down here in 1912 because, as I mentioned, that she couldn't stand another winter in Illinois. But she lived from 1912 to 1923.
Did she come down here alone, or was her husband?
No,
still
she came
alive?
down with her oldest and youngest son.
Okay.
And her youngest daughter. And then that's when Mother and Dad came down to just see how they were doing.
Sure.
And it, well, of course, there's some amusing incidents that, to me, it was funny. Not go back now, but at the time it wasn't. I'd get bored with the daytime there with my grandmother, And I went out and found a hatchet. And all of those farmers planted these Australian pines as a windbreak. And I found this hatchet and just happened to chop into one of those trees. And when I did, the bark come down, and how white it was. So I began to, you could just take a cut and take a hatchet like that, and you could strip the bark off of it. And I thought, well, I'll make these pretty and white down here. I stripped the bark off of every dead gum Australian pine that my uncle had there. Well, of course, you know that's what happened to them. They all died.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think, Deb?
I think that's good.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Woolbright, you care to share with us?
Well, I can't think of anything. I'm about thought out.
Well, we greatly appreciate your time
Yeah.
visiting with us today.
Okay, just let me lean in a little bit, Deb. I want to see the corner of you sitting there talking to him,
Okay.
just as a kind of a cover shot here that we can go to.
I certainly appreciate your time today, and I
Okay.
enjoyed your stories. And as we go back through this, I'm sure I'm going to have a lot more questions.
Was this go into the archives, will it?
Yes, sir, it will. And you're going to get a transcript to check over. But yes, it'll be in our